So you're never too old to learn, and you have to adapt. So I would say one of the things about being in this space, or any leader actually, is your adaptability. In my career, I've worked, as a senior civil servant, I've worked in the corporate sector, and now I work in the charity sector. And each time, it's almost like a chameleon. I've had to adapt. And sometimes that's gone against me. When I've gone for certain jobs, people have said, oh, actually, you're not an expert in this, or you haven't been in this sector for very long. And I said, well, what about the last 30 years and what I've done there? And I think people, particularly now with the world of work and AI changing, you have to be adaptable. You have to be agile. And the leaders, I'm not saying I'm the best leader. I'm always on a learning curve. There's so much that I've learned in the last few years, particularly, again, I go back to listening to girls, but also from teams. People bring in all sorts of things to the mix. And for me, that's my fuel, is having that collaborative with people come with energies and ideas, and be a disruptor. Don't settle for the same old way we've done something.
Yeah. When you talk about kind of like always curious to learn, so one of the things that I would say, Rebecca, as a leader, you're really good at helping people see what they're bringing to the table, but then in being conscious of yourself, you're then also conscious of, okay, so where's my gaps, where this person isn't competing with me, this person is complementing my skills. Like how is that sort of showing up in your team, and kind of, the type of skills that you are sort of recruiting, or the capabilities you're building?
Yeah. And again, another sort of great question. It gets me to think, actually. What I love I have, like I said, a very small team. And yes, it's women. Someone asked me, do you recruit any men? And it's really difficult. Yes, we can, I guess. But at the moment, a lot of work we do is around girls, and girls feel comfortable around other sort of, female leaders and the workforce who understands their needs. So my key mantra to my team is it's all about autonomy and giving them the freedom and independence to create. I have one staff member who works remotely, and she has 2 small children. And it's really sweet. Sometimes she says, oh, I'm really sorry, I've got to take so-and-so to school. Can I take this time off? And I'm like, no, absolutely. That is not, I know you're going to do the job. I don't care when you do it, as long as you have, regard for your own sort of physical and emotional health. But that kind of culture where we used to have 20, 30 years ago, and I won't repeat, where, if you didn't work certain hours, and how people behaved in the workplace was very different to how you operate now. So I think giving people the confidence and the autonomy to lead, and also to believe in themselves to do it. I know sometimes my team will come to me like, can you have a look at this campaign? We were sitting yesterday looking at some things for social media, and I thought, yeah, I really like it, but I also like the fact that you could actually go away and lead on this and welcome your ideas. And it won't be perfect. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. I think that's the thing. Giving people, I don't like using that word permission, because it's not about permission, just giving people confidence. We should all give confidence to each other every day.
Yeah, I really like that angle. We talk a lot in our business about sort of accountability, and I think that there's some words. I mean, they're not necessarily corporate words, but they've been embedded into kind of corporate, and I think they're really hard. I've used it a lot. We're really on a quite a strong narrative around accountability. What does that mean? Why is it different from responsibility? But I think a lot of language gets in the way with people really connecting, like at the heart of what you're trying to do. What is it? I want you to feel confident, safe to go away and do your best job. In an environment that's rapidly changing, there is no perfection. Don't let that be your barrier to progress. One of the impressions that I have, and it may be a very incorrect read, so forgive me if I'm making an assumption, but having looked at sort of your career and connected with you a little bit, I have a really strong sense of you being this incredible sort of synergist of like strategy, direction of travel. I know what I need to do, but that only becomes a thing if you execute well.
Yeah.
And I imagine that your brain goes really fast and that there's a sort of a built-in impatience. I don't know.
I don't know how you picked that up. Did you know me in a previous
Troublemaker,
life?
disruptive, innovation.
And how do you temper that within yourself?
Yeah.
Because it's something that Lou and I talk about a lot. It's like, oh, faster, more, please. Yeah. How
That's
do you?
that's a pretty accurate reflection. How did you pick that up? That's why I opened up and said a lot of people call me trouble. And I hate and love that term, but I've learned to wear it as almost a badge of honor. I used to hate it. It's like when people call me, I'm very small. Like, oh, here's a small person, petite. And I used to hate it, but now I embrace it and I see it as a strength. I'm a very driven person, which sometimes gets on my nerves. And I've had bouts of mental health issues. It's not something I feel comfortable talking about. I feel comfortable talking about it with you today. But I think it's if we're going to be raw and honest. So, of course, I always say I don't suffer from imposter syndrome. It's not that I don't suffer from it. I don't allow myself to suffer from imposter syndrome, particularly being a woman of colour. Most of my life, I would say, I've always been underestimated by people, partly at the way I look, size. I remember, many years ago when I was a director of housing and I entered this meeting and all the construction architects and people, they looked at me and thought I was the tea person. And I said, no, I'm actually the director. And you could see their faces just drop. And even in the meeting, I still had to deal with all these invisible barriers to how do I make myself appear credible and authoritative. And I've had that all my life. Even now, I still get that. But what I do, I guess, is I have various coping mechanisms. So to deal with that fast, I do consider myself a dynamic person. Part of leaving the civil service was I was frustrated with bureaucracy. It was a great role. You get to change people's lives. That just gives me a kick. But the flip side of that, it takes forever to get something done. And I like to get things done. Sometimes I get frustrated when other people can't see what I can see. But you always have to check back in yourself and have due care for each other. And you don't learn that overnight. I've learned that over time. How do you become a better leader? How do you become a better listener? How do you respect people more? And I think it's always a self-reflection thing. None of us like criticism, right? But if criticism comes with good intentions, then that's fine. It's when criticism comes from a different place. And I know we might pick this up later, but again, I go back to being particularly South Asian or a woman of colour. I mean, I deal with this a lot, the statistics, something I advocate about, quite horrific still, that from the work that I did 20 years ago in government, you still have not very representative teams and leaders, and that's a problem.
I wanted to say actually welcome to the Difficult Women Club. And I saw this really beautiful quote by Jane Goodall last week. She said something like, it doesn't take very much to be considered a difficult woman. That's why there are so many of us. And I really like your sense of like owning. You may choose to give me this label, but I will make a choice myself as to how I live it, and I will kind of harness the intrinsic energy into troublemaking, into something that has an outcome
and not a negative. I think to your point, it's spinning something that could be perceived as a negative connotation into this is a positive outcome for me. Then if being a troublemaker means we're affecting systemic change in 10 years time, label away. I'm happy. I would rather be that than, apathy for not saying the thing that needs to be said. And I think that's that sort of purpose and mission is definitely something we share, and why we do what we do, why we've always done that is like, what are we actually trying to achieve here? And even to your point around your team, it's like, what I care about is the outcome you're delivering, how you get there, when you do it on your time, as long as the outcome is with our mission and what we're trying to do. Like, again, that sense of safety and autonomy, like actually it comes with responsibility. So as long as we do both, then actually we're in a safe space. With your, like, the learning journey, I totally resonate with, and me and Rebecca talk like always, like I'm like, Rebecca, is there anything I could be doing differently? Give me some feedback, because I don't pretend to know everything. I don't know what I don't know. And if people don't give feedback to me in a way that's kind and clear, then I can't really kind of progress. So how open are you with your team in terms of saying, hey, could I be clearer? Like, is there anything I'm not sharing with you? Is there any feedback, or vice versa? Like, what do you need from me that's going to help you achieve your goals?
Yeah. So again, still on that. I mean, my team is still new. We're recruiting new people, and I guess again, it's something that you have to keep playing, and it's not a one-off. You can't just do it the once or the team. I mean, like anybody, we have team meetings, we have regular. But I guess one of the things I'd like to do more of is the reverse mentoring. I mean, we talk about it again; it's a big thing, and the best experiences I've had is when I've had reverse mentoring. And I wish we did more of it. I mean, there's nothing stopping, I guess, in my role, even doing that. But yeah, I think for me, I'd like to do more of that, because I think you just learn. It's like, okay, I'm not Gen Z, obviously. But yeah, going back to young people, just the way they troubleshoot at things and the way they solve problem. But then on the other hand, I don't want to talk about young people. There is a big issue, again, something that I'm quite concerned about. You see a lot of women in their 50s, for example, a lot of discrimination that just gets, I'm in my 50s. And I know people say, oh, you can't be that age, like something, they're looking at me thinking, and I think, well, that's another thing about being visible and being invisible. You're making these assumptions. So for me, that's also a concern particularly about women leaders in the workplaces. How do you bridge that gap, that there is a lot of learning to do with other peers that I have, but also there is the reverse mentoring side where you can have young people who are giving you that feedback. So I would like to set myself a challenge to do more of it, actually.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so part of Fem Mentored, which is a community I run alongside the day job. We've been exploring the concept around reverse mentoring. So particularly interested in charity boards who, by their very nature, are a certain demographic. There's gender biases still, because that is just the people who have the time, who can volunteer and also not be paid to do those roles. So as a trustee, I have loved the experience, but actually the concept of reverse mentoring for boards, particularly around digital AI technology, really helping bridge those divides between actually this is what's coming down the lines as a board, like how can we sort of provide access to mentoring as well. So yeah, interesting to sort of explore reverse mentoring as a concept, particularly in our industry and sector where digital and technology is just at a rate that is quite terrifying.